Hi, good morning, everyone. While waiting for the others, I eat first. Oh, yeah, Pak. Oh, because of the echo, I'm in campus lah. Is the echo really disturbing? Don't know how to make it better lah. Wait, I open the windows first. Maybe if I open the windows, maybe the echo maybe. Pala. Wait. So is my voice clear? Is the echo lesser? Oh, the echo? Oh, okay lah. Wait, okay, so today I promise that we will discuss the tutorial chapter 4, 5, and 6. I hope we can finish it all lah. Some of your friends, they are going for the vaccinations too. So we proceed lah. Record the meeting first. Okay, so for questions, tutorial number 4, which is the requirement engineering. Okay, so to fasten our tutorial, I just think I think I will just ask you all which question that you found is hard or you cannot answer. You don't know how to answer. Okay. So for the others also, not only Noel, please find the questions that you found hard and then so we can discuss the questions lah. Oh, so tutorial uh, 4? Okay lah, tutorial 4. Okay, how about the others? If no, then we can skip. Morning, Shak. Okay, so Shak and Elvin. Good morning, Elvin and Shak. Okay, so now we are discussing tutorial 4, 5, and 6. And then, um, unlike the usual way, I will ask one by one all of the student and then give your questions. Yeah. So today the approach is I will ask you all which question that you all found hard among the three tutorial. And then after that, we will discuss about that. Okay, so Noel said for question tutorial 4, he has no problem. Then we can proceed to the tutorial 5. But how about the others? Okay, so if no one answers, so can I have a raise hand if you agree for us to proceed to tutorial 5? So if you agree, then raise your hand. Can we do every tutorial? Okay. Okay, so you propose to me. Which question that do you think hard? Not hard, but just double check for the test letter. Okay lah. Okay, so if like that, we 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 proceed to the our usual way lah. Huh? Okay, Noel. Hard part is good answer, but no, don't know right or not. No problem. Okay. Okay. So for the questions one, this question is asking about user and system requirement for the outline order and payment function mentioned in the scenario. Okay, so usually, like I said previously, user requirement is something that you can get from the questions itself. Okay, remember, user requirement is you can get from the questions itself. Okay, so in here, may I get some user requirement from some students lah. Okay, so for example, Jeremiah, can you give me your user requirement for questions number one? The online order and payment function is available for user to learn in a very low learning time. Okay, wait. How about Kelvin? Can you please give me your user requirement? Yes. Usually, system requirement is derived from the user requirement. The customer will be able to make an order and do payment online. Okay, beta. Okay, so I will get answer for user requirement from Russell. Can you give me the user requirement, Russell? The online order payment function must allow a large volume of customers to place order and product and make payment during festive season. Okay, so what I can say is for the user requirement, if you read the scenario, you need like a summarize. After you read the scenario, you need to summarize by maybe one until two sentence telling what the user really want. Okay, so from all of your answer here, online order implement very low learning time. Okay, so if you see here, we said that if the user requirement doesn't need to be really details, right? But as long as it can like a summarizing or the the requirement that the user wants, then it's okay. So it doesn't matter how you construct your sentence, as long as it is like a summarization about the scenario. Okay, for example, here, as long as you tell what is the name, if the scenario has the name for that system, then you put the name of the system and then what is the main function the system can do. Okay, so Okay, so if you see here in our, okay, I share. The user requirement from this scenario actually you can get from the third paragraph. Okay, but don't copy 100% from this paragraph lah. Okay, so if you see here, you all see, right? The top management and of Panasonic wants new system which will include an online order and payment feature available before Christmas. Okay, so this one you can tag on. It must be an online order and payment feature available before Christmas. And then they believe that this online will feature based. Okay, so hence a project team will only have about 3 months to work on. Okay, so here also this is actually what the user wants. And then top management also emphasized that the new system downtime should not be more than, yeah. Okay, so downtime should not more than, yeah, this is the important part. Okay, so and must be developed using object oriented design. Okay, so whatever I highlighted here is the main requirement that user wants. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you construct your sentence as long as you capture all of these, then okay. Understand? So remember, user requirement is usually you can get from the scenario. Understand? I can give okay kah? I don't click. But sometimes it's easier to explain in system requirement. Yeah. But for the user requirement, you giving the whole whatever that is stated in the scenario. You get the main requirement that you think user really wants. Okay, so after that, from this requirement, then you can think deeply in each of this requirement. Okay, so I will give the example here later. Okay, so this is the example of, okay, so here lah, like usual, I mean not like usual, because some of your friends said should really show the suggested answer. Okay, so this is the suggested answer. You all can see, yeah? Okay, so like what I said, these are the, it doesn't matter how you construct the words or the sentence, but as long as the main important thing from the scenario, and it is from the user, then you can make it as a user requirement. Okay, so after that, the system requirement is like this lah. Because the user requirement may have amalgamation. Okay, remember? Must write all the user requirement. Like I said previously, you must summarize from the scenario given. Okay, so but it must be stated in the scenario. Cannot just choose one. Yeah, But don't until five sentence lah. Usually one until two sentence or three at most. Because if you ask a user, they will usually give a lot of requirement in one. They think it is a one requirement, but actually it is more than one requirement. So if you all can see in this user requirement, it is consisting the bed, not the bed. It is containing amalgamation. If you all remember, amalgamation is when a user requirement consisting more than one user requirement. Okay, so this user requirement is consisting amalgamation where in this user requirement it is containing more than one requirement, which is the sales inventory must be on the online payment feature, and then should be in 3 months, and then the downtime should be this. Okay, so it is containing a lot of requirement in one. People user will think that this is one user requirement, but actually if we do the system requirement, you all can separate it. Okay, so one sentence must containing one requirement. Okay, so for example, like this, based on this, based on this user requirement, you come out with this one is online order. Okay, so we have online order here, online payment here, and then to check inventory through the internet. So because it is online, this is something that uh, indirectly. Okay, so because this is online, so we know that it should be through internet. And then so this one is okay. So generate online sales report. Okay, so this one, even though it didn't directly from this, but we check the meta. Okay, we check the questions either usually the system requirement, even though you derive it from the user requirement and then you add some more details. Okay, so so even though in this scenario there are no uh, there are no statement saying about generate online sales report, but usually for an online or for any system, report is usually there. Generating report is usually there because when we do any business, we cannot run from generating report and report to our top management. So this is the relevant requirement that you can propose, even though it doesn't include it in the user requirement. Okay, so this is generate online sales report, view order history. Okay, so this is something relevant requirement that can be in or can be included in online payment or online system or any system lah. So only system, I think, even though what you found, any system after this, not only online order and payment, as long it is a system, then these two you can include. If you have no idea already, right? Because you all of the user requirement you already derive, and then you already come out with the system requirement. Okay, for example, you already come out with these three. because these three are based on whatever you derive from the user requirement. And then the question asking about five questions, like 5 points or five system requirement. So even though you have any type of system after this, usually any system will have report. Okay, so this you can just amend this. If this is online order and payment, right? So that's why online you can generate online sales report. But for example, if you found later the student portal system, then maybe you can think some report. For example, student attendance summary report. Okay, as long as it can generate report. Okay, so maybe you can add the system shall allow the admin to generate student attendance summary report. Okay, here. Okay, so maybe you also can add system shall allow the administrator, or sorry, student, sorry, the system shall allow the student to view their attendance history. Okay, so understand ka? So these two usually either generate report and view history of any data that you will key in into the system. Okay, so these two is like common system requirement for any system, but you all need to amend it based on the system lah. Understand ka? Okay. So yeah. Okay. So for those who are silenced though, so I guess you all understand ah. If you don't understand, then you ask. Okay. So we proceed to the questions. Baru to the questions B. Non-functional requirement can be categorized into three main categories, namely product, organization, and external. Okay. So identify for non-functional requirement requested by management and staff of Panasonic in the above scenario. For each identified non-functional requirement, indicate whether it is a product, organizational, and external. So this one, I think we have in our slide we have example about this. Okay, so for non-functional requirement, usually you sometimes it is in the scenario, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so like I said previously, non-functional usually something that under the product it is usually related to the quality requirement. Okay, so quality requirement. Okay, so whatever the example given in our slide, you can follow, but you need to change or amend it based on this scenario lah. Okay, so for the suggested answer here is okay. So like I said just now, for the product, these are all of the quality, all of the requirement of this product or the system that explaining about the software quality attribute that we have learned previously, then you all can include it here. Okay, so from the scenario, we have one software quality, which is here. So this is from our scenario. So that's why I said you all can still use whatever example in our slide previously, and you all also can take uh, something from the scenario if the scenario have it lah. Okay, for example here, you know that the downtime should not be more than 0.05. Okay, so this one is actually explaining about reliability. Okay, so you all can see here lah. Okay, so if you see here, all of this efficiency, this one, and then this one, this is actually general. It is doesn't come from the scenario. Okay, but like I said previously, non-functional requirement is usually something that the user don't know. Only we know about that. So, um, in short, you all can give whatever requirements that you think relevant, but based on the software quality attribute, but it is under the product lah. Okay, so for the organizational, okay, so we have under the organizational requirement, we can get from our scenario where it says that it must be because it is requested by the top management, right? So it is under organizational. Okay, so the top management said the system should be developed using OOAD. Okay, so and then must be used Oracle database. So you all can put this under organizational. After that, the external here, I think this one it doesn't it is doesn't stated it didn't stated in this scenario, right? There's no about text here. Okay, so you can assume something like this lah. Okay, so understand about this. Okay, thank you, Noel and Fer. Okay, so I just proceed that because we have 3 tutorial. And then after that, we proceed to the questions number 2. Okay, so it asking about the problem in natural language, and then suggest and explain two alternative to using natural language. Okay, so you remember there are about top 3 points that we have discussed previously, the problem of natural language. So you can just explain it based on our slide and then using your own words. After that, uh, after that, if you you in our slide, I think this is all from our slide. Okay, so you just need to explain all of this using your own words because this is from the slide. Okay, so if you answer like this directly, then I can give you either 0, either half from the mark, or 1/4 from the allocated mark. Okay, understand? For example, if the question asks about, it said, um, provide 3 problem of using natural language processing, and then you directly copy this from our slide. Then the answer, the mark located for these questions may be 6 because 2 marks for each of the problem lah. Okay, but if you answer directly like this is not the suggested answer, but it is from the slide. So this is how the marker know if you are copy pasting directly from the slide. Okay, so here, if you really answer like this, then the more at most I can give the mark is 3. If the questions if the mark allocated for that questions is 6, okay, so at most I can give 3, so you already have lost 3 marks already. Okay, so similar with this lah. This is all from the slide, right? You all know, right? This is from the slide. I remember this is from the slide. Okay, so two alternative to the natural language processing, you can answer any two from these options. Okay, and you need to explain it. You need to explain it. Okay, so because it asking about explain, right? So the suggested answer it didn't explain here because the examiner will check your explanation. Okay, so we didn't have example or suggested explanation here because it is based on the examiner discretion. Okay, so we proceed now. We proceed to the questions number 3. Do you have any question for questions number 2 just now? No questions. Okay. This is one of the so this is one of the user requirement provided in the requirement document. Okay, so this e-shopping system shall allow online user to search, select and purchase their desired product online. Okay, so you need to prepare 3 functional requirement and 3 non-functional requirement from the above user requirement. Okay, so usually because you only have this short user requirement, then usually for the non-functional requirement, you can use the same functional requirement that you have used here. Okay, as long as it is non-functional requirement kan, so you can give either under product, either organizational or external, but as long as it is relevant. Okay, so if here you can use this 1, 2, 3, and then the external also, yes, 1, 2, 3, because these questions or this answer doesn't related or doesn't based on scenario, because it is a general non-functional requirement that usually a system must have. Okay, so you can just use this whenever it is not related to the, and this one cannot lah because this is from the scenario, from the first scenario, and then this one also can because Malaysia tax and service tax. So the questions here is asking about online e-shopping system, also a system that require online payment and purchasing, right? Okay, so the external non-functional just now also can be used here. Okay, so for the non-functional, you already have the answer. As long as you amend it and then make it relevant lah to this. And then 3 functional requirement. So maybe you can say the system should allow user to search online. Okay, first functional requirement. The second, the system shall allow user to select and product, to select and purchase a product or their product their desired product online. Okay, so you already can get the second functional requirement. Okay, so the third, we see the suggested answer. Two, simple, right? You can get it from the user requirement. Search, select, purchase. Done. Okay. So this one also, like I said just now, just use if the user requirement is really general and it is just short user requirement, then you can use the commonly used non-functional requirement, because the non-functional requirement that is usually that we can see from the first scenario and the second scenario, it is applicable to all online or to all online system lah. Okay. Okay, so here also, this one is something yang you can a little bit different from the previous, but this um, um, is actually the relevant one also lah. I don't know how many of you know that actually HTTPS is secure than the HTTP. So it is based on your general knowledge lah. The functional and non-functional can just all copy paste. You copy paste from where? Like I said just now, copy paste the statement. It is not really copy paste lah. If you see from the questions here, sorry, this is tutorial 6. From the questions here, this is the user requirement, and then you have derived it into three. Based on this user requirement, you have derived it into three functional requirement. Okay, so it doesn't really copy paste lah, because you actually separating all of you are actually separating the user requirement become three functional requirement. Okay, so and then you make this functional requirement atomic. Atomic meaning like there's no amalgamation, meaning one sentence of requirement only containing one requirement. Okay, so that is what it means by amalgamation. This containing amalgamation, meaning one requirement having more than one requirement. Okay, so you all can see to search, select, and purchase. And then when you derive a functional requirement from it, you make each of the requirement become one by one. One requirement, it doesn't mix with another requirement. Okay, so that so it is what it means by you derive from the user requirement, and then you avoid using you avoid creating amalgamations requirement. Okay, so for the usability, you all can use the same like the previous, but maybe you may change. If the previous is 5 seconds or 2 seconds, then this uh, in the second scenario, maybe you make it 8 seconds, or must be within 10 seconds like this lah. Okay, so because we are not asking requirement from the real user, so we are free to make our own assumptions, but usually based on your experience, if the systems give you feedback about more if the system give you feedback, and then you need to wait for about more than 10 seconds, you already frustrated, right? So it is based on your um, the relevancy lah. Okay, so if you want, the system must feedback you within 2 seconds, then you can put here 2 seconds. Okay, so that is based on the system or the software engineer discretion. Okay, so understand? Okay, so you can, yeah, yeah, based on Kelvin questions, basically copy paste change one or two words. Yeah, you can change one, you can change the word lah. And but make sure don't create functional requirement that has amalgamation. Okay, so one requirement, one functions. Okay, so we proceed to questions number 4. Okay, so this is the applications. Yeah. So non-functional requirement usually the same lah. Okay, so you can think about the usability, efficiency, security. All of that is usually common for all of the good system, because all of the attribute that we have discussed previously, it is should be possessed by a good software. Okay, so you can use that software product quality to be the non-functional requirement, but you need to change a little bit lah, and then it must be relevant to the scenario. Okay, so we proceed. So give four functional requirement for the track your truck system. Then explain the problem if you not construct. If you are to construct user requirement using natural language. Okay, so this one is asking about the problem of using natural language lah. Then this one you can uh, explain about like the previous one lah, the problem of natural language here, but you make it related to the scenario a little bit. Okay, so for example, um requirement not partition effectively by language. Okay, so maybe you can relate it here. Explain problem for you. Um, we see the suggested answer first. Okay, so okay here. So this one also from our slide. Okay, so lack of clarity, requirement of confusion, requirement amalgamation. Okay, so this is what I said since the first questions. Several requirement expressed as a single requirement. Okay, so these are the problem that you can find, but it is better if you can change or if you can relate or explain each of these by relating it to the scenario a little bit. Okay, so for example, you can say that by using the natural language, it can produce requirement amalgamation. For example, for example, you you copy some of the requirement from this scenario. For example, user can also, if you give like a Okay, so maybe you can take this as an example. Okay, so maybe you can say that by using natural language, it can produce um, requirement amalgamation where in one requirement there is more than one requirement in it. For example, here user can also view the vehicle's full usage, mileage, performance analysis reports through TYT. Okay, so you all can see here that this sentence having amalgamation. Actually, if the requirement, if you derive a functional requirement from this, you can get about one, two, three, three functional requirement from this one sentence. Okay, so you explain this, and then you get example from the scenario. Okay, so give four functional requirement for the. I think this one you all already can answer lah. Functional requirement. Okay, so these are the suggested answer. You all can screenshot or you can refer to this uh, lecture letter, and then this one. Okay, so after that, questions number 5. Sri Touch Academy, okay, produce two functional requirement. I think this one no need to discuss lah. I think because I already in our previous uh, questions we have the same type of questions and then the same way of answering. Okay, and then this is the suggested answer. Okay, so the suggested answer you can follow this lah. Okay, so we proceed to tutorial number 5. Raise hand nah. Okay, Farah, Noel. Okay, so I assume all lah because nobody is asking already. So we tutup, we close this tutorial for. Okay, so this is the tutorial 5. I open the tutorial 5 first. This one, I think easy lah because it is in our slide. You just need to discuss using your own words. Like I said just now, even though the question didn't ask you to use your own words, but please use your own words because usually in the suggested answer is from the slide. So the examiner, the marker confirm know that either your answer is from the slide or not because the examiner or the marker answer or the marking scheme is from the slide. So when we compare it and it is 100% the same, then you at most you can have the marks is half from the allocated mark. Okay, so this one easy lah, I think. As long as you explain by using your own words the requirement engineering process, then okay already. Okay, so we proceed to the questions number 2. Okay, so here Okay, so for here, can I have answer from Ian for 2A? Interview by having a structured conversation with Nobiana, Zen can directly obtain the system requirement and details. And then the second is scenario, having real life scenario example will help Nobiana and Zen to identify the flow of event and activity that will be implemented into the system. Okay, okay. Sujan. Okay, so when the question asking suggests, okay, so you read again the scenario. Okay, so make sure that whatever point that you suggested, it fulfilling the scenario. For example, but I saw that there are no special scenario here. Okay, so but for example, there's a scenario in that questions. For example, the questions like during the pandemic, okay, during the pandemic, Nopiana is asked to collect a requirement from this company. Okay, so suggest two technique of discovering requirement from to the above scenario. Okay, so during the pandemic, is this interviewing by face to face can you suggest or not? Okay, during the pandemic, is the face to face interview suitable or not? Not suitable, not on unless online. Yes. Okay, so that kind of scenario you must be aware. But I think these questions it doesn't have any special scenario lah. Okay, so usually that is a tricky question, like what I said just now. During the pandemic, and then you need to do the requirement gathering. So is the interview face to face? Is the face to face interview is suitable or not? So no. Okay, don't suggest that interview by face to face. If you want to interview, then you can say like Elvin lah, using online interview. Okay, so if there are no scenario that is special that you will need to take uh, attention, then I think you can suggest whatever technique of discovering requirement. Okay, so the suggested answer for this is okay. So here you all can see lah. Like that's why I didn't give usually the suggested answer because the suggested answer is whatever from your slide. And then when there's explanation, there will be no explanation in the suggested answer because we expect and then we will give the marks based on the student explanations later. But it will there will be instruction to the marker lah. Student must explain how the techniques works. Okay, so when you're explaining the techniques, for example, interviewing, you must do like you must explain like what Jonathan explained lah, interview by and you must relate it to the scenario. So how you can relate it to the scenario is by mentioning the name of the staff, mentioning the name of the system, and then mentioning the name of the company, like Jonathan or Ian answer lah. Okay. So this one is yeah technique either prototyping, view oriented analysis. Okay. So this oh so this is the technique lah. To technique. Okay, so we proceed to the questions number 2 will be. Okay. Describe the viewpoint-oriented analysis in requirement analysis process. Okay, so this one you need to describe a little bit about viewpoint-oriented analysis. And this one, for this one, you can get the definitions of viewpoint-oriented analysis from our slide, but by using your own words. Okay, by using your own words. Okay, so and we proceed to the questions number 5. Sorry, 5 lah pula. 2C. Suggest 5 principal viewpoints which should be considered in the process of discovering requirement for the above project. Construct a viewpoint hierarchy. Okay, so this one based on the the system, then you can. Okay, so this one, if you really don't know who is actually or what is the position that usually related to this kind of system, then you can do the search from Google. Maybe you don't know who is usually use this point of sale and inventory management systems. So if you don't know, then go Google so that you know the position that you can include in the hierarchy. Okay, so the suggested answer for this is okay, so sales staff, inventory staff. This one understand ka? Because this is from the slide. Whenever it is hierarchy, then you can follow. At the top, confirm all VP and then divide it into the 3 types of VP: interactor, indirect, and domain. The only headache here is identifying the staff that will use the system. Okay, so like I said just now, if you don't know the position of the staff that using the system because you also never use and that kind of system, right? So you can go search using the Google. And then usually this one is you can use this one. This is the standard lah, the commonly used for the domain. And then this one, if it is if the company if the business company is doing business, usually we cannot run from this supplier and marketing department, so you can still use this as long as your client company is doing the business. Okay, so when company doing business, they cannot run from this supplier marketing department. Okay, so can Nobiana be a viewpoint? You mean you mentioned the name of Nobiana here. Usually we will give the position, name of the position for the hierarchy. Can finance department and owner use? Yes, position. Finance department, yes, can. Owner, I think owner is too general. Maybe you can say CEO, COO, the name of the position lah. Okay, Kelvin, finance department, yes, can? Yeah. So we cannot use a specific name here because in the future, when maybe Nobiana left the company, then who will then we need to update again this hierarchy, right? So we need to give the name of the position. So whoever that will replace that positions later, it doesn't matter. This hierarchy still can be used. Okay, we proceed now. Okay, so this one, two advantage and one disadvantage of using viewpoint analysis. I think this one we have in our slide. Then you can get it later. Suggest the aspect to be checked when validating the SRS for the above mentioned project. Okay, so this one is level 4 type of questions. You need to know what should be checked when validating SRS. So, first you check what we need to validate in the SRS. I forgot this is, this is tutorial 5, right? So chapter 5. So in our slide, there's a way or aspect that need to be checked when you validate the SRS. Then you need to suggest lah based on the project. So this is the answer. Okay, so here, like you said here, like it is stated here, any logical and acceptable answer. So like Kelvin said just now, finance department, yes, okay. Because in a business company, we cannot run from from a finance department. Maybe they also name the finance and marketing. It cannot be run. We cannot be run from that department. Okay, so this is the advantage and disadvantage. Okay, so this is the aspect that we need to check. Okay, so um, this is from our slide, and then when you explain it by stating or by referring to the scenario, and then you can get full mark already. Don't just like I said just now lah. Don't directly copy paste lah. And then yeah, Noel, which question that you said had previously? I remember it is tutorial 5. 2C. 2. Oh, the principal viewpoints. This one, right? Oh, okay. So the principal viewpoints is actually this one lah. The five, this one, the five principal viewpoint. Okay, so because this hierarchy, this first all VP, interactor, director, and domain, this one is fixed. Whenever you do the hierarchy, this one memang fixed. And then when it has five principal viewpoints, then it is referring to the example from each of these viewpoint. So that's why it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that is the five principal viewpoints. Okay. Okay, so after that we proceed to the okay, discuss any three possible problems in requirement elicitation and analysis process. Okay, so this one I think we have the it is in our slide. Okay, so you just need to explain and discuss the problem that we can face during the elicitation and analysis process. Okay, so these are the suggested answer. Okay, so this one you can get whatever relevant answer from our slide and then explain it by using your own words. Yeah, lecture notes also. That's why I usually didn't give the suggested answer directly because it is all from the slide. So, like I said, there's no exact answer. You just need to refer to the slide and then using your own words. Okay, so for we proceed to the questions number 4. Identify 3 viewpoints of online management. Construct viewpoint hierarchy. Okay, so this one it says 3 viewpoints. So there are three, just the direct, indirect, and then this is the suggested answer lah. As long as you have all of this and then you give example for each of these VP. Okay, so as long as it is relevant. So like I said just now, Kelvin, so can just answer internal stall, staff ka? Oh. Internal staff, CEO and UI standard. Yes, UI standard you can always be used as long as the system has interface. And then, like I said just now, if you said just now owner, right? So like I said, we prefer use CEO because we prefer a positions under each of the VP. Okay, so usually the interactive VP will be the end user. So please use the end user lah. Only use someone that is not directly use that system under indirect VP. Okay, but in under interactive VP, you must use the direct user. Senior software engineer and IT project manager is not considered interactor. When it is not here, it doesn't mean it didn't consider, but it didn't listed out all lah. Wait, based on the scenario, internal staff to use by internal staff. Okay, internal staff, yes, you can use as the interactor. IT project manager, yes, can be used. IT project manager. IT project manager. Yes, it is interactor. Can? Interactor meaning direct, right? Interactor meaning the direct user. Okay, so the one that is indirect is the CEO and the competitor. Okay, so you can also put, if you answer here, the internal staff, uh, if you answer here under the interactive VP, internal staff, yes, correct. Under interactive VP, internal staff, yes. IT project manager, yes. And then are responsible to manage this project with senior software engineer. Yes, it is all under interactor. As long as in the usually you can find the interactor VP from the scenario. Okay, so indirect VP, someone that you think will have influence to the system, but doesn't directly stated in the scenario lah. Okay, IT project manager, yes. Interactor, like I said just now. Internal staff, yes. Okay, so we proceed kan. Competitor as indirect VP, yes. Because whatever you put under indirect VP is someone that didn't use the system, but they can give influence in deciding the feature of the system or whatever. They will give influence to any decision you make to the system. Okay, so for example, your competitor, maybe you are the same company, sorry, you have a client that have the same business, but the interface of of the clients, I mean, if your client B and client A lah, and then your client A interface is prettier, for example, Shopee and Lazada lah. And then, because we know that, for me lah, I don't know if it is correct or not, but this is me as a user punya pandangan is like a Shopee is better than Lazada. That is my personal opinion lah. Okay, so maybe when Lazada wants to improve their interface or their system, they may be influenced by Shopee. Okay, so whenever they do any changes to Lazada, they will maybe get some information from Shopee interface or Shopee system. But the Shopee will not use Lazada, right? Maybe lah Shopee CEO will use Lazada lah, maybe just to see either who is better, who not, right? But um, a competitor can be indirect VP because, like I said just now lah, maybe because we want to compete to each other, even though they are not using our system, but somebody must need to check either what is the good point from their competitor so that they can be able to implement it in their system. Okay, so that is the competitor, that is why competitor also under indirect VP. Okay, so we proceed to the questions 5. Questions 5 is asking, to prepare the system requirement document, recommend and explain to aspect that must be validated during the, I think this one is similar with the questions from something that the validation with. This one. Suggest 3 aspects to be checked when validating SRS. Okay, so this one also the same. Okay, we check. Okay. So this one also. This one lecture notes also. Yeah, okay. So you know, right? That's why. That's why I didn't give the suggested answer because it is all from the slide. Okay, so we proceed to the questions number 6. So this is asking about construct viewpoint or hierarchy for online computer store. Okay, so with 5 possible viewpoints. So, like I previously, as long as you have VP and then the 3 category of VP and then you get the correct example of each of the VP, then okay. Okay, so here it is online, so I think you still can use the UI. Okay, so UI standard still can be used. Okay, so but we see the suggested answer here lah. All VP. Nah, to see, you still can use UI standard. UI standard is common as long as your system has UI. Okay, so and then the one that you really need to pay attention is someone under your example under the interactor. Manager difference, store owner and manager different. I of course lah. Usually the store owner don't want to manage, especially when they are already rich lah. But for a small company or small retailer, usually the owner is the manager. Yes, can still put marketing department. Yes. Competitor also, yes, for the indirect viewpoint. Okay, for the indirect viewpoint, marketing department but you see here the scenario here, small scale family business. Okay, but for the small scale family business, do you think they have marketing department? Okay, so no lah, right? So that is the relevancy is needed here. Ah. So usually if it is a small company, the owner also the manager, they will not have so much department lah. Okay, so you can think relevancy it here, the relevancy here. Okay, so like here, store manager, manager, I think, yes, for a small company, you may have a manager, but only one manager lah. It doesn't need you to have one department. Okay, so usually for the small scale business, there will be no department, but there will be for manager, it is not impossible because um, usually um, many even the small business should have a manager lah. Okay, so the shop owner you can see here, right? So remember the interactive viewpoint must be usually you can find from the scenario. Okay, so we proceed lah. Okay kan? Tutorial 5. Okay, so we close tutorial 5. We proceed to tutorial 6. So tutorial 6 also use the same scenario lah. Okay, so we have the same scenario like the tutorial 5 just now. Small scale family business. Okay, so discuss three main activity that your team would perform for the architectural design. Ah, you all can hear ka? The ambulance ka? The ambulance sounds. So apa tu so loud oh. Okay, so okay, so this is from the slide. But when you're explaining it, you must explain it and relate it to the scenario a little bit. Okay, so because it already says here, perform the architectural design of the above project. So when you do the explanations, because in our slide, there are three main activity that we need to perform in order to create architectural design. Okay, so you all remember, right? In order to create architectural design, we need to go through three main activity. And then when you discuss, meaning you explain the activity, and then you need to relate it to the scenario. Okay, so this one, as you all remember, the first activity must be system organizations. So under the system organization, you are choosing some model. Okay, so once you have the models, you do the modular decomposition, meaning uh, in this system organization, you remember in the system organizations, we are identifying the subsystem inside the system. Okay, so after that, in the modular decomposition, each of the subsystem we zoom in and then we get the modular or module inside the subsystem. Okay, so after that, we need to control all the modeling lah. Okay, so by remembering that explanation. Not just remembering lah. You can just read from our slide lah. Okay, but you explain it based on the scenario. So, for example, here the library online computer store system is structured into okay, so this one you specify either you want to use each of this model, any of this model. This is the models that we have learned previously: repository, client server, and layered. So you need to choose lah. Okay, so you need to choose, because in the system organizations we need to come out with a model, what model that we want to use. Okay, so how to make it related to the scenario is by mentioning the name of the system or the name of the company or the name of the person from the scenario. So here we are mentioning, you should mentioning the name of the the company or the business lah. Okay, so you need to structure it into, okay, so here you choose the model that you will choose lah, you want to choose, and then you said that you will structure it into a number of subsystem. Okay, okay, so remember, for the system organization we are identifying its subsystem, and then also we are identifying the communication among the subsystem. Okay, so this one you just need to explain it based on the scenario. Okay, after that, all of the in the modular decomposition, each of the subsystem will be modularized. Okay, so into the modules by using, okay, so this one also we have already learned. Okay, so I hope you all understand, because whatever that is stated here is actually, it is not just whatever relevant. This is not based on relevancy, but it is actually from our slide. Okay, so you remember system organization. From system organization, you must choose a model, and then you must identify the communication among the models. In the system modular decomposition, you make it each of the subsystem into module, and then from the slide you all can see that there are two way of identifying the module. Either you modularize them based on the object oriented decompositions or function oriented decompositions. Okay, so this kind of answer, this is not based on relevancy. So you all cannot say that it is hard to find the answer lah, because we don't know what is correct, what is not. But actually, you all can see here, this is actually stating uh, the fact. This is not based on relevancy, but based on the slide, whatever that we have learned previously. Okay, so after that, you do the control modeling lah. Okay, so in short, you explain the three main activity, explain what happened inside the main activity, and relate it to the scenario. Just it. Okay, so far so good, huh? So we proceed with questions number 2. Okay, so in this questions number 2, you need to draw appropriate system organization model for the above project. Okay, so this one, system organization, remember that we have learned already 3: repository, client server, and layered model. And then based on this, you choose whatever model that you want, and then you you can sketch or draw the apalah. For this, the recommended system is client server. Can use the e-learning system name. You want to name it where? Transaction server, one transaction server. The middle here, wide area network. You want to change to e-learning system? Yeah, kah? Yeah, cannot. Of course cannot because this is the communication. This is the communications. Yeah, the communication, how the client and the server should communicate. Okay, so you cannot lah. If you want to put the name of the system, then you can put either at the above or at the bottom lah. Okay, you can say the figure one. Figure one. E-learning system structured or system organization model. Okay. And then you said, and then it asks, explain the model and justify your recommendation. Okay, so first you need to explain about the client server model lah, and then after that justify your recommendation. So here, we see dia punya recommendation, why they recommend it. So usually when it asking about your recommendation, you can use the advantage and disadvantage of each of the model. I put 5 servers each with one purpose. You mean here all of the server there is having the same purpose and then you have 5 based on the paragraph. 5 ka? It's not 4. Penang, Melaka, Kelantan, Sarawak. So you separated their server based on what? Oh, so you mean program registration and payment, one server. Online assessment, one server. Assignment submission, one server. Uploading and downloading course material, one server. Is that it? Kelvin? Oh, payment and register separate. It will makes your system very complicated lah actually. If you learn programming later, it can make your system very complicated. No, because you still actually when you created this, you still need some knowledge from programming. If you put like for example, if you in our previous example, there will be a separate server for video, there will be a separate server for picture, right? So that is relevant because usually video and picture you can store the path of that video and server from another server, meaning the main server. So this question only need answer. So doesn't matter if it's hard to code, isn't it? And because if you imagine you are the software engineer later, and then whatever you do now will affect your code later. Okay, so when you design now, it's hard, and then it will makes the program or implementation later hard. This is just a tutorial question. This is a practice for you to enter the industry. Okay, so we um, okay. Actually, whatever question that is given, what is the example that is given, that is actually the purpose of it to make you all can think uh, and then help you to go to industry later. So, um, okay, so can I have your justification, Kelvin? Can you please copy paste your justifications here? Why why you do why you choose that model? Did you explain and then how you explain the model when you choose to have five server? Very short one. Can I see it? Oh, student as client need to be able to access the server for their multiple function. Wait, let me think first. A set of server. Mm-hmm. So, set of standalone server which provides specific service such as program. So this one is your explanation about the client server lah. Okay, your justification is this: the student has client need to be accept. Wait, so like I said just now, when you make a justifications, usually you can refer to either the advantage or disadvantage of each of the model. But we see the suggested answer here. So, okay, so yes, this is the explanation. What is the client server? So this is okay. So the processing of Heber transaction for online. So this is the justification. Justifications of why the suggested answer is client server. Okay, um, so actually your explanation here, justifications, I think you need to justify why you need to separate your server until five server. Okay, so your justifications here, Kelvin, you must explain why you need multiple server. Okay, so like this one lah. So it says that because of heavy transaction from online user of the online system. Okay, so to avoid the overloaded because of the heavy transaction, so that's why they choose the client server because client server have multiple server that can provide different service. So I think if you are insisting to have the five server just now, yes, like you said, yes, but don't if you really in the industry letter, you have to think in deep lah how you will if you remember if you have learned database previously, right? So when you do the query and then when you put all your database from the different server and then imagine how you will do your query. Okay, so how you can get your data from one database to one database and then you combine it. Okay, so remember, imagine if you are creating a report and then you need a data from student here. Yeah, I mean you need a data from each of the program and then you also need to check based on the online assessment. So imagine that you have all of these from different server. You imagine how headache you will get later when you do the query of the database. You all have learned database, right? So when you do a lot of query and then you need a lot of data and then it is from different database, you will need to do union lah, you will need to do a lot lah in the query. You really need to expert in doing the query, SQL query. So that's why I said yes, it is based on you. If you really want to do like whatever you want just now, then proceed as long as you have in the future later when you really are the designer of the architecture of your system. All of this you need to think when you want to separate your database and then you need to think how to query them in the future. Okay, Kelvin? But if you answer like that in the tutorial or in the exam letter, then I still can accept your questions, your answer. Okay, as long as your justifications why you make it in different server is acceptable. Okay, so for example, if you explain that you choose it the client server because you want to this one lah, like this one, this suggested answer, then I can accept. Okay, Kelvin, how to answer when we need to figure out the server we need to serve ourselves since there's no list to choose from. Then, if like that, you can refer to the slide because in the slide usually like this, right? And then you also can do some searching from Google for client server example, and then you can also okay, the slide got different server. Yeah, so yeah, that's why lah. In the slide, it makes the different type of data is put from different server, right? So if like that, if you think it is uh, hard to different or how hard to identify what servers needed. Okay, so for client server, it doesn't mean that you need multiple server. If you have one server also can be considered as a client server. I saw they give one task, one server, so I copied it. Yeah. Okay, so if you so a client server, it doesn't mean that you really need more than one server. Okay, so client server, if you remember the definitions, you can have one server or multiple server. Yeah. Okay. So. For example, here, if you, I think the material can have another server. Okay. Kelvin, material can have different server. For the assignment, I think you can have another server, but jangan sampai five lah in the question. Servers for all the tasks in the questions. Okay, so actually, if you learn about server, right? For example, the material. For example, the file or slide. It is a file, right? So usually we put it in one server. We didn't put it in database. So or can choose four hour of few server. So it doesn't matter how many server lah. But it it doesn't necessarily to have five. You can have one or more than one based on the necessary. Okay, so I'm not blaming you for because there's no exact or number that we can give you. Okay, so like I said, in this scenario example, right? Usually, server you can have different server for storing different type of document or file. Okay, so for example, in our slide previously, they have a different server for video, different server for picture. So, but they will have a one server that have the database. Okay, so for these questions, I can suggest you to have about three or uh, I mean there will be you can have this, you all can have this because there are you can have front end transaction, back end transaction, network, and DB, and then you can add another one here which is the material server because it will store the assignment and course material. Okay, so the all of the info here beside the assignment and the course material, all of it can be stored in database. So that's why there's a DB here. All of this program registration, payment, online assessment. Okay, so these three can be put in DB server. Why we put assignment and course material in different server? Because it is a file. When you submit your assignment, it may be in Google Doc or it may be in PowerPoint for your course material. It is in PDF. So usually we can put it under one server. But all of the information, just information, it is not regarding files, then you can put it in one server which is DB server. Okay, Kelvin? So if you really don't know, you can follow this this slide for the client server. But when you want to reuse this again, make sure it is an online this one it is online system lah. Okay. Okay, so we have about 7 minutes to cover up until questions number 7. Okay, so for the other students, okay, Kak? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we proceed to the differentiations between control model. So this one, I think if it is a differentiations, you can create either using, it is better if using table, but we see again lah, the example, the suggested answer. Okay, but the suggested answer here, it doesn't using table because it has this apalah, this apa tu, diagram. Okay, so you all can make it like this lah. But it is better if you didn't cannot make it in the into the table. But uh, what you can do is, okay, so for example, call written model and manager model, and then interrupt driven and broadcast model. Interrupt driven model, broadcast model. Meaning you want, in these questions, it asks you to differentiate call written model and manager model. Okay, so you can answer whatever that the info that you have from the slide lah. This is all from the slide only. Okay. Okay, so it is better if you can make it compare it based on criteria, some criteria or not lah. But this one, I mean, I think this one, it doesn't have some similar criteria that we can compare. Differentiate can copy from the slide. I think the diagram can, but at least the name, sentence, make it a little bit different lah. Especially, but yeah, make it a little bit different. For example, here a top-down subroutine model. So maybe you can say that this model, this call-written model is supporting the top-down subroutine model. Okay, so this type of model is applicable for, I mean, a sequential system is the most suitable for this model. Okay, so the example of this, right? So you want make it a little bit different from the slide, then you can say that a sequential system is most suitable to use the call written model. Okay, understand? It is still referring to the same meaning, right? Applicable for sequential system. Hmm. But and then you can say that sequential system is most suitable or most applicable, most suitable to use this call written model. Okay, so for that one, and then giving reason, we proceed to the questions number 4. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one, for ticket issuing, because there it is really, it is just a type of they only give a type of system, right? There's all no detail about this. Okay, so usually for online you can use client server. So we can, if we see the example, questions number 4a, an automated ticket issuing system used by customer at the cinema. Oh, so it is saying that used by customer at a cinema. So it is not from a geographically aware. The client is not geographically aware to each other. So you can use repository model. And then a sales and inventory system used by sales staff and inventory staff in an organizations. Um, wow, this is no suggested answer. I mean, this is no reason, and there's no reason. But like I said just now, when you are suggesting something, and then you need to justify why you choose that, and then the questions also is very general like this, then you can use the advantage or disadvantage of each of the model. For example, you say that we can use repository model for automated ticket issuing system because the repository model is, then you set the advantage of the repository model. Okay, understand? Okay. Only Kelvin? How about the others? Okay. But I think as long as it is online, and then there will be a user, and the question is mentioning user, then don't use the layered, because layered it doesn't, the layered model um, it doesn't explain about user. Okay, so you can use either repository model or client server, because for the layered model, if you see, it is only explaining the architecture of that system only. It doesn't involve any external user or system outside that system. So for these two type of system, since it is mentioning about user, for example, here is the customer, and then here is sales staff and inventory. So you can choose client server or repository model. Don't use layered, because layered, like I said, if you see the layered model, if you remember, it is only the architecture of the product itself, the software itself, without um, taking into consideration who is the user, what is the communication with the outside system or the user of that system. Okay, so don't use the layered model if the system is the questions is stating about there's a user. Okay, so for it is already 11. So you have class after this? Huh? So 11 a.m. ayah. So can I give this? I mean, you all, because for those who have class, you all can see this. This is the suggested answer lah for the questions 5 until 7. Okay. So if you need explanation about this answer, you can ask me after your class. Okay. Group Noel and Farah and Kelvin. And then the other class only have class at 2 p.m. Okay, so the Farah and Noel and Kelvin, you can leave the class now lah. Okay, bye.